What's up, you guys? Forrest here with the FoCo Flow Show. On this week's video, we're talking about tips and tricks that I've learned over the years on how to make mountain biking more fun, easier, or more convenient. I've been riding for a lot of time. I've picked these tips up from friends and people I ride with and people I've watched. Hopefully they're helpful for you. Maybe you already know them all, but hopefully at least one or two of them are new for you so we can get out there together and find that flow. All right, everyone. Mountain biking is awesome. We don't need to convince you of that, but what we do know is there's some things that you can do that make it more fun, make it easier to do, and make it more convenient. Over the years, I've learned different things that have helped make the whole experience just a little bit more enjoyable to execute, more fun to do, all of those things that just improve the overall experience. So these aren't ride trips. I'm not teaching you today how to bunny hop or how to rail berms or any of those different things that help you find flow on the trail. Instead, we're talking about practical things that just you may have already thought of or maybe you haven't, right? And things that I didn't know right when I started mountain biking. So hopefully if you're just learning and just starting out riding, these are some aha moments that you haven't already thought about. And even for you veteran riders out there, maybe there's one or two things I'll throw out here that you haven't yet thought of or you have been meaning to implement but just needed someone to tell you that it's a good idea or one that I've experienced. So pulling from all the different experience I have, we're talking about ways to store your bike, ways to clean your bike, ways to prep for your ride, and ways to make sure that everything that you do goes well on your ride. Like I said, some of these are obvious, some of them might be new. Again, would love to hear from you guys. If you have other tips and tricks, put them in the comments below so that we can hear what different things you're doing to have the same type of better experience. The goal is to get on the trails faster, to get on the trails easier, to keep moving when things aren't going as well, to make sure that you can do it again and again and again. So without further ado, let's hop right into the first tip so we can get out there together.
First up on our list is the almighty bin box. Now there's nothing special about the box that I use, but it is a tip that I picked up years ago when I started mountain biking, and multiple people have told me just how convenient this little guy can be. So nothing special, get something durable, and then as you are getting ready for a ride, you've got some of the things in the box already, and you grab your helmet, your gloves, your knee pads, all of the gear that you're going to need to take with you to the trailhead for your ride. I like to have a few things in the box at all times: a bike lock, bungee cords, water filter and tire plugs, Flow Show stickers, Misfit Mountain bottle opener, zip ties and electrical tape, your favorite brand of chain lube, a multi-tool Swiss Army knife, and a Ziploc bag full of extra toilet paper because sometimes you just never know. So once you get all of the actual gear for the ride that you need into the box, you seal it up, and then from there, you've got it neat and tidy contained so it's not rolling all over your back seat or in the trunk. You can take it, throw it in the car, and then head on to the trailhead knowing that you've got the bare necessities as well as some of the additional items that you may or may not need, but always good to have instead of not having it when you need it. The other great thing about the bin box is when you're done with your ride, you can take all of that nasty, sweaty gear and your helmet and your gloves, your shoes, hip pack, knee pads, anything sweaty, throw it on top, seal it up, and take it home, and it won't stink up the entire car. Tip number 2 is to leave your gloves on and to wipe down your bike immediately after you finish your ride. So I know this isn't revolutionary, but I've learned the hard way that you're going to have mud on your bike and it's going to be messy and nasty, and you're going to want to try to get some of the gunk off when you finish up the ride. I actually recommend throwing the bike on the rack right away when you finish. Most bike racks can hitch out of the way so that you can get to the trunk if you need to load your gear. But you throw the bike on there and you get it set in place, and from there, with your gloves on, you can wipe down all the excess dirt and things that have gunked up on a particularly muddy ride. And then of course we can just throw those gloves in the gearbox, get them home, throw them in the wash with the rest of your nasty and dirty ride clothes. That way you get some of that gunk off the bike, keep it looking a little bit nicer than maybe it would be otherwise, and from there you've got a bike that's ready to ride a little bit faster for your next ride. Keeping with the theme of keeping your bike looking good and getting the mud off of it, when you get home from a ride, leave the bike on the bike rack and hose it down after a particularly muddy ride. Now, I know there's a little bit of disagreement and controversy about whether you should be hosing your bike down. I would say that I have been hosing my bike down after most of my rides for roughly 10 years. There's the concern about, all the grease and the joints and full suspension bikes are going to eventually get washed away somehow. I've never had an issue with it. Again, no, not every single ride, a particularly dusty ride, no big deal. It's when you've got all that mud and gunk and dirt and dust busted up inside there that you really want to get out so it doesn't grind into those same pivot bearings and things like that. Hard for me to say that this is not worth the convenience of getting your bike clean and then dried off. Again, it does mean that you may have to pay attention to those pivot bearings. You may have to re-grease them once or twice a year, but again, full disclosure, I usually don't do that. A year or two later, I've got a squeaky bike, and then I take it to my local bike shop for a suspension service. So support your local bike shop, keep your bike looking clean, because it'll look better, it'll feel better, and you'll feel better about your next ride doing it here, rather than pulling it off and moving it over and getting other areas dirty or wet or muddy. It drains right off the driveway, and then from there, you are good to go with a shinier bike for your next ride. Once we're done getting our bike looking shiny and new, the next thing we got to figure out what to do is how to put it away and get it stored so that we can conveniently get to it when we're ready to ride again. So our next tip focuses on a pulley system that's great for bike storage. I, for one, am a firm believer of the number of bikes you need is N+1. So that means we've got a few bikes in the old Foco bike shop. Here in the garage, after we wipe our bike down, we get it looking neat and tidy, we got to figure out where to store our favorite rig. So overhead may very well be the best option. So I admit it was a little unnerving taking my favorite bike and hoisting it with these two little hooks high overhead for it to store for the remainder of the evening, and hoping that nothing would snap or fall or disconnect and tumble back down to the floor. But I've been using this system for over 5 years in 2 different houses, and I have never had an issue. You just install a 2x3 or 2x4 into the studs in your ceiling, and then you get it screwed in, and then you use this pulley system to lock using a strong, durable rope that comes with it. You can buy this for $15 off of Amazon, and I think it's a great option, especially if you don't have any more floor space to allocate for one of your other bikes. I use this one for my main bike so that you have everything that you need to get it out of the way until you're ready to ride again. Next on the list really is a convenience tip for your friends and riding buddies that you are meeting at the trailhead, and that is to make sure that you get the tire pressure as well as the chain lubed and any other prep done at the house before you leave for the trailhead. There's nothing worse than when you are all geared up and ready for that 12:30 wheels up ride time and your buddy shows up right at 12:30, but then he's got to get his gear ready, he's got to lube his chain, he's got to get air in his tires, maybe reset the sag on his fork and his shock and all of those other things, and then the ride doesn't start until 12:45. And if you're a dad, a parent like me, and then you've got a 2-hour window to ride and you got to get back, or things will not be as happy there on the home front, it is definitely best to maximize the ride time, and plus it's better for you too to maximize the ride time. So make sure you got yourself a good pump, like you say here, and again that great chain lube that is easy to apply and quick to apply so that you get everything dialed in before you leave for the trail. It makes everybody happier, your buddies will like you better, and they might even invite you on another ride. So again, an obvious one maybe, but one that we have proven time and time again as mountain bikers to not execute on, as I know each and every one of us has had to wait for a buddy when he's showing up last minute. So easy, simple, and your friends will like you better. So make it happen. And our last tip and recommendation is to make sure that you let somebody know where you're riding before you go on the ride. Now, this is also a piece of relationship advice, speaking from someone who may or may have not forgotten to text his wife once or twice on a long backcountry ride and didn't communicate the ride time, and then had the local police called so that they could track him down. I was at the hotel asleep. So don't do that. Learn from your old Uncle Foco. Utilize the MTB Project or Trailforks app or a Google Map pin and simply figure out where you're riding, and then text that location and make sure that your wife or significant other or family member knows how to use the app. Of course, Google's the easiest here, but if you want to get on there and show them exactly what you're riding, many times, more often than not, there will be a route that will be very similar to what you're doing. So shoot that over to your significant other or family, make sure that they know, and from there will be no relationship strife and everybody's happier.
So there you have it. I hope you found some of those tips useful. Definitely have helped me over the years to just have a better time, an easier time out there on the trails, or getting to the trails, or getting home from the trails, or keeping bikes clean, all of those little things that you learn over the years. So again, I hope that's useful. If you have some thoughts of your own, please comment below. Let me know what things that you do to help the overall experience to just be a little bit more fun, as if we needed more ways and means to have fun on the trails. Check out the links in the description to some of the products I talked about or that we saw. There's some affiliate links there, purchases through those links, like the gear I'm riding or the bin box and all of those things. That helps support the channel and I greatly appreciate it. And of course, above all else, make sure that you like and subscribe so we can get out there together and find that flow.